Hello, fam. It's T Paranormal. We are the Paranormal Musing Podcast. This is episode 44. It may say episode 4 on there. It's a typo by me. And we're here with Rick Brown. He's going to talk about the historic Monroe Theater and the Monroe County Infirmary. So we got a 2-for-1 tonight, really. So we're going to learn some cool stuff. And hey, if anybody gets into the chat, let us know you're there. And when you get in there, and if you want to ask some questions, please ask. But how you doing, Rick? The floor is yours. My first question before you actually get going is, what got you into the paranormal?
Um, Actually, someone just asked. It's something I've always been curious about. I'm not really afraid, just curious. And when I got involved with our local arts council in in rest and involved with the restoration of the historic Monroe Theater, we had a pretty reputable paranormal team that asked if they could come, and I met up with them and talked back and forth, and they kind of gained our trust, and we let them do it, and they started sharing information, and that just kind of brushed it off. And so we started allowing more investigations, and things were happening on a regular basis. Look for and then I'm like, oh yeah, yep, our theater is definitely there's something here. But it has a it was the theater was built in 1939, and there was a lady named Mina Fleeman that built the Monroe Theater. She was a at the time basically a millionaire, and in 1939, females, that was unheard of. A female just didn't do something like that.
Yeah.
She built not one theater but three,
Oh, wow.
and so she had built herself a pretty good empire. And her son and daughter-in-law ran the Monroe uh, clear until January 1977 when it closed. And then Monroe Arts Council, it was donated to the Arts Council in 2016. We reopened it in 2019 with our first stage show, just lawn chairs. And now we're undergoing a $5 million project that will make it like brand new again. And so we're excited about that. It reopens in October. You can find it on Facebook at the Monroe Theater or historicmonroetheater.com. There and some of the findings from the different teams. There's also different teams that have been there to investigate that have shared their videos on YouTube as well. But we've had some pretty interesting stuff. The first team that was there to investigate, they came and they told us, okay, we'll meet up with if it makes sense, whatever. So they came back and it was a great granddaughter, I believe, of the Fleemans. Maybe they had got something from one of her grandparents or something, and they presented us with several EVP, very clear EVP recordings that they got, and one of those recordings was the guy said his anybody. It wasn't in any records that we had or anything. So she called her aunt and she said, these ladies are talking about a Vincent. And she said, oh my goodness, Vincent worked there in the 1950s. He ran projectors. He did this. He was wonderful. He loved the theater. And so Vincent is one of our regulars there. Pretty much at any given time, if you go in with the right attitude. We've had a couple groups that he wouldn't, for some reason, he just would not interact with. But most of the groups there, he's revealed himself, said his name. They've caught it on their recordings. We actually were so excited about that. We went and bought a 1950s red velvet usher's vest and put a nameplate with his name on it, and we hung it in our projector room where he worked. And
Wow.
the ladies came back and they asked, they said, and he said yes, and they asked what he thought of that, and he said thank you.
Oh wow.
And so he's been there. We've had a lot of activity with people get a lot of response out of cat balls there. They also get the REM pods go off there frequently. The SLS cameras have produced a lot of stuff. I don't know if it's Vincent. Nobody's ever really, even though we know he worked in the projector room, there is something in the projector room, and it's really funny because back in those times, females also did not operate any machinery.
Hmm.
And so when we have female investigators, if there's an SLS cam that can, they're in view, when they get close to the projector, the little stick guy will get like between them and the projector, trying to protect the projector. And we always laugh about that. Um, One thing that we caught was really cool. There had not been power. The power had been completely cut, the lines cut, everything, a bunch of stuff removed. It was actually caught on one of our security cameras that we set up in the building just to, just in case somebody wasn't honest or something like that. And we had a camera in the projector room, and when we were just playing a reel back, and we could hear this clicking on the video. And you got to dig pretty deep, but you can go to our Facebook page. Uh, on there, but it actually sounded like a movie projector running. So we presented that, we shared it, and there were some people said, this and that and whatever. And there was a guy come on there and he said, I'm 90 years old. I ran that. I see the projector. It's this model, and what you're hearing, he said that is it's in the mode that they used to let them sit idle before they would throw the lever and kick the film in. And he said, absolutely, without a doubt, that projector is sitting there running.
Wow.
And that kind of made us happy. And we had one team, a father and son team, that was there from up around between Wheeling and Pittsburgh, Wheeling, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They came down, real good guys. They actually had a small pebble tossed at them. It wasn't thrown like hard, but it was obvious that pretty cool responses. We've had groups in there that have asked for music to play. One scared them to death. They called us to come to the theater. They were terrified because music did start playing. We've never heard that ourselves. We had another group that asked the so the one team, they were out in the front lobby area, and you can hear the investigator say, I wonder what happened or what goes on out here. And plain as day, you can hear it say pizza. And it was right by the concessions. I said, well, he's right. We make pizza. So
Maybe one of
now if you've got to look and enlarge the picture. They're also on the Haunted Historic Theater page. There is a black and white photo that seems like it's taken from upstairs, and it is down toward the stage. If you enlarge that picture very up to a certain point, you'll notice a figure on the right side of the stage. One of our teams actually captured that. Didn't even know they did.
wow.
Someone else said there's a man in that picture, and as crazy as it is, some of the investigators actually get a man that speaks in that area where that figure stands. And he said hello. He said welcome. They asked him where he was at one time, and he said, "I'm in the water." And they said, "We don't understand why you'd be in the water." And I said, "Oh, I do." I said, "The basement was leaky, and it sat here." I said, "From about, I'm going to say 2000 to 2016, and the water had filled the basement up, and was basically laying stagnant in the water." He probably was. He was in the basement, and he probably was in the water.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that stuff that really makes sense. We've had some doors open and close now and then. Nothing real scary. There's been nothing dark there, um, or that's made us feel uneasy. Um,
Hmm.
Most of the investigators that come to the theater say that it was a very pleasant experience. They had a blast. They were excited, about the information they got. Um, One night that we had a team investigate just before renovation started, and they talked to Vincent, and they asked him if he understood what was getting ready to happen, and he said yes. And they said, "Are you happy about the renovation?" And he said yes. And I think that's because he realizes that we're bringing it back to what he knew. We're not
Yeah.
making a bowling alley or a shopping center. It's going, whatever's there that was accustomed to the theater is comfortable in knowing that we're restoring everything, and they're still going to have a home.
That's
And
good.
we absolutely welcome whatever it is that's there. We're not trying to push it out. We're thrilled that it's there. Um, there's some days I would go in when activity seemed to be a little heavier. I would go in the morning and I would say, "Good morning, everybody. If you can hear me, this is what's going on today. Please, please, please cooperate. That's coming. We've got this going on. And I just don't want no equipment failures or anything like that." And we were having a concert one night, and our screen kept flickering, and I don't know what made me think of it, but it was very early in the show, and the projector was kind of going on the fritz. And I said, "Hold on." And I ran upstairs and I sat down and I'm like, "Okay, guys, look, this is not the time." I'm like, this probably looks like a spaceship to you. You don't even know what it is." I said, "But this little box right here is exactly what this is alone right now, and let it play." It stopped immediately, and it was crystal clear after, and they never messed with it after that for another show.
Oh, wow.
So, they're we do often ask if there's anything they need, um, just to see what we might get in response. They've never really said anything. They seem to be very appreciative to everything we've done and that we continue to do, because, as I said, we're restoring everything. We actually have the original popcorn machine from 1939 that's
Oh,
actively in use in the theater. So
wow.
like everything that they knew is still there. So
I, I,
that's
I got a question. If,
yes.
if you had to guess, how many do you think are there? Spirits.
There was a couple nights that they said that they had contacted up to five.
Okay.
That's about the amount of staff they would have had.
Hmm.
Um, and something to think about too. There's several of the former employees that are still living.
Oh,
There's
wow.
there's only a handful that are actually gone.
Okay.
So some of the former employees are still living, and they've been coming back to the theater because they were glad to see it reopen. So, but yeah, I was afraid we might get a lot of negative feedback or whatever about it. We had a few that's a little creeped out, but for the most part, people just laugh it off. But the people that are truly interested in the paranormal side do enjoy coming to the theater. We pretty much let them come in at 8 p.m. We
Mhm.
ask them to be out 8 a.m. We leave the building, we lock them in, tell them how to get out if they get tired and want to go home. And when they go out, the building secures itself. And that's just how it works. And we let them do everything on their own, and then they can share with us whatever they were able to get. And that seems to be working very well for us at the theater.
Okay. Eight
Um,
8 to 8, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's a good amount of time.
Most of the investigators, usually a late team is out of there by 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And 6:30.
Okay.
So they took advantage, but also they kept they were continuously getting responses. They were getting
Mhm.
activity, and they didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Now we did have one group, and I think maybe they were younger, and I think maybe it was just like barely 18 um, group that might have been being a little disrespectful to whatever was there.
Mhm.
And they did get a strong EVP that said you need to go.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and I said, well, that's
Don't care where you go, but you can't be here. Get out.
right. And I said, well, I'm glad you did. And the very next day I walked in and I apologized to, whatever's there. And I said, I'm sorry, we may have that from time to time. And I said, I don't expect you to be on display. I said, it's your choice if you want to talk. And half of my volunteer team, our group at the theater, they probably think I'm nuts for talking to these things. But um, we would show weekly matinees, and one of the big things that they love to do to me is hide the movie. I always lay the movie in the same place every day. It's there 2 or 3 days before, laying right there. No one bothers it. And the morning I walk in that we're supposed to show the film is not there. So we addressed that, and I said, please, I need this. Just bring it back. Um, I'm going to walk out here, and if just leave it somewhere where I can see it. And I may walk in 10 minutes later, and it'll be in the middle of the lobby floor. Obvious that it was not there when
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so they really like to mess with me. They do, and
It
I
seems
think
like they appreciate you though. It's like because you're not coming there yelling and screaming at them. You do
no,
this, you do that. You're actually treating them with respect, dignity, and all that. I mean, these folks they were people at one
right,
point, and this is their place.
right,
And even with the construction that's going on, you're restoring it back
yes.
to what they had. So it sounds like you got a few good ones there. You know.
I think we do. Now we had one team that came in at one point, and they had a few dark things, and I kind of often wonder because that was the only time it ever occurred, and it never occurred again after they left, and we had several teams after, and I was wondering if it was maybe something they brought with them,
Could be.
something
I
that
think.
maybe something was
Yeah.
attached to somebody or something, and
It could be that. It could be,
they
they
might
didn't
have
mean
just
to bring
ruffled
it. They
somebody's
meant to bring
feathers.
something in.
Yeah,
Yep. Or, they're looking to beef up their views.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We ask of groups to respect is that we don't want the groups to use Ouija boards.
Hmm.
And we had a group that started to, and we just happened to one of the members happened to catch it on camera, they were just checking the cameras, and they're like, "Oh, they're setting up a Ouija board." And we called right away, and we said, "Nope, sorry, we're done. We'll give you your money back." We said no Ouija boards. We're not going to accept to come here. So we worked hard at keeping that stuff out.
Yeah.
And um, well, I'm back. Okay.
Okay.
But we work hard at keeping that stuff out. And the I'm not sure where it cut off at, um,
It
but
was when you
anyhow,
said, yeah, you talked about the Ouija boards, and then you said you were saying you keep that stuff out, and then when you came back, you started with you keep that stuff out. So you're caught up. Yeah, we're having some weather issues up there, so Rick's having some issues. As we all know, weather has been nuts. Okay, we got Rick back.
I'm hoping this connects.
Yeah, you've been going in and out. It's getting worse now. Um, like like we talked about before we came on, the weather's
I don't know if it's going to stay connected or not.
you're back now. I think you're back now. Yeah. Can you hear me, Rick?
If this does cut out, I would be absolutely willing to um,
Oh
come
no,
on
we'll
again
definitely we'll
at
definitely
some
have you
point
back on, brother.
with a
Yeah,
better connection. As I said, we're having horrible weather up here
yeah,
right now,
no problem,
and
no problem.
the rains are just terrible.
Yeah, no problem. We'll definitely have you back on if it cuts out. I understand. We talked about it before. The weather has been nuts. Um, the guys went up there to Kentucky, and I know Cordy was telling us about the storms. I think Alabama actually had a tornado too that day. So
I
yeah,
don't
well,
know if
yeah,
it's going
I
to
definitely
connect or not.
understand. Like I can hear you. I can see you and I can hear you. Oh, and we lost him. Well, folks, if Rick doesn't come back, we're going to call it, and then we're going to have to come back on because we're not finished talking about the Monroe Theater, and we still have to talk about the county infirmary. Very interesting stuff. So definitely going to have him come back on. So I'm going to wait for him a little bit. Those of you in the chat um, who have been listening to Rick, if you got anything or any questions, we can ask him later. Any comments? Anybody ever heard? I've heard of the theater. I have not heard of the infirmary. I told him that before we came on. Um, a lot of cool stuff there. A lot of people have investigated it. Um, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to reach out, see if I can reach out to him. Um, uh, let's see. There's Rick. Okay. So I just let him know we're gonna have him back on. Um, yeah, that sucks, but you never beat Mother Nature. So, um, well, like for tonight, that's gonna be it, folks. Weather happens, and you know, but I will say right now, um, the at least the Monroe Theater. Um, they're working on it. It should be done in October, I believe he said. Well, then they'll be open for investigations. Investigations are 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So you get a lot of time to investigate this place. Um, we don't know about the infirmary yet. We're gonna get back with Rick, and then we'll figure out the infirmary. It's up in Ohio, uh, one of the most haunted states, it seems, because there's so much going on in Ohio. Um, but sorry, it had to be a quick one, but hey, nature calls. Um, and we'll be back. So got a special episode Thursday, another live. So be on the lookout for that. To be with someone else. I'll get that out tonight. And then after that, I should see you next Monday. And as I was emailing Rick, I just saw that another spot that I was looking at, they just emailed me. So that may be coming too. So we'll get Rick back. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk with a team on Thursday. And then Monday, I don't know what's going to be on the agenda, but we'll be back. And I need to talk to somebody to talk about another spot, another place. So I guess I'll throw that out there. Want to get back to that a little bit. People who own or work in these haunted spots, I want to talk to them more. Um, um, the uh, 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 the eerie movie thing, it's got to come back. Um, so I need to get that out. I'm like way behind on that. So if I have one more member with me, I don't care what movie it is, we're coming on and we're going to get that out because it's been 2 months and that's my bad. Okay. Um, so I'll get those out for you. Owe you going on 3 now. So shouldn't be that way. That's on me. And and also local haunts. So we know that hey, if I don't have anything going on, nobody coming on the show or anything to talk about, gonna drop some local haunts. Local haunts is we'll talk about 3 different places. Um, it is the history of the place. Talk about other folks' investigations. Don't want to talk about ours. We always talk about ours. This is about a place, and I see it as people who have not been in Florida. They hear enough about us, so let's just talk about a spot and get it out to folks. And so that'll be coming here and there. That's not a scheduled thing. It's just that hey, I don't know I don't have anybody to talk to, so let's do this. Let's talk about something from Florida. But with that, coming in July, uh, adding on to local haunts, gonna go do a local haunt where it will just be the 3 of us at a spot in Florida. And hopefully you enjoy it. We're gonna do an investigation. We will film it and we will get it out there to you folks, and that will be part of the local haunts. So showed the guys already, but preparing for this, the t-shirts are out. The local haunts. We got the t-shirts out, so that's what we're going to be doing. But yeah, sorry folks, sorry this was a short one, but hey, weather whooped us. So happy hunting, fam.